My name is Clara Whitmore, though most people called me Claire. I was just 17 when my world cracked open in two places. First, when the boy I thought I loved walked away without even looking back. And second, when my parents told me to pack my bags and leave. No goodbyes, no second chances, just the sound of a door slamming behind me on a bitter January night. It all began the way so many high school stories do. Ethan Cole, the golden boy. Varsity soccer captain, effortless charm, that grin that made teachers forgive him and strangers trust him. He always seemed to know what came next. And then there was me. Quiet bookish, a straight A student who filled the margins of her notebooks with sketches of coffee mugs, rooftops, and faraway cities. When Ethan noticed me, it felt like someone had finally turned the light on. He leaned across diner tables at midnight, his eyes alive with impossible plans. "You and me, Claire," he'd say with fire in his voice. "We're going to make it big. Who cares about rules?" I believed him. I wanted to believe him. We dreamed about renting some shabby downtown apartment after graduation. Cracked pipes, leaky ceiling, but windows so tall sunlight would pour in like gold. I'd design the menus for our little cafe, and he'd charm every customer who walked through the door. We carried each other's dreams like scripture, never doubting, never pausing to ask if they could break. But belief doesn't always last. By the time summer bled into fall, Ethan was changing. His texts got shorter. His silences stretched longer. His eyes drifted past me, already fixed on some horizon that didn't include my face. He spoke of internships in New York, of Stanford Law, of futures too polished to leave space for my rough sketch dreams. And then came October. The leaves were just beginning to burn red and gold when he asked me to meet him at the park. There, with his hands shoved deep in his jacket, voice steady and unshaken, he said only, "This isn't working anymore," just like that. No fight, no tears, just a clean slice through everything we'd built. I stood frozen on the gravel path, my scarf twisting in the wind. I didn't run after him. I didn't beg, not then. My chest felt hollow, and though my eyes burned, not a single tear fell. Not yet, I didn't know it then. But heartbreak was only the first storm on my horizon. The weeks after Ethan left felt like walking through fog. Days blurred together, classes, homework, empty notebooks where his name used to fill the margins. At night, silence pressed against me so heavy it felt like a second skin. And then, the symptoms began. At first, I told myself it was nothing. Just exhaustion, stress, maybe a stubborn flu. But my body knew better. Coffee, once my comfort, made my stomach twist. My favorite jeans no longer buttoned with ease. And deep down, I carried a fear I wasn't ready to name. One Friday afternoon, I walked into the small pharmacy 2 blocks from home. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I stood frozen in the aisle, staring at boxes of pregnancy tests like they might vanish if I blinked. My hands shook when I grabbed the cheapest one, hiding it up my sleeve as if the cashier could see the shame written across my skin. At home, I locked myself in the upstairs bathroom, the one with the chipped tiles and the mirror that fogged too quickly. My heart thudded against my ribs as I followed the instructions with trembling hands. I set the test on the counter, waited, counted the seconds by the sound of the dripping faucet. And then it appeared. 2 faint, pink lines. That was all it took to shatter whatever pieces of me were left. I sank onto the edge of the bathtub, clutching the test like it might explain what to do next. A dozen thoughts raced through me. Would Ethan come back if he knew? Could I hide this from my parents? Could I raise a child at 17? That evening, the dinner table looked deceptively normal. Meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green beans. My father with his newspaper. My mother humming quietly as she set down the casserole dish. But inside me, a storm raged louder than my pulse. Finally, I whispered, "I need to talk to you." My father looked up over his glasses. My mother froze, dish still in her hands. I stood there, unable to sit, my throat dry. "I'm pregnant." The silence that followed was crushing. The kind that rings in your ears and makes the world feel miles away. Then the storm broke. My mother's voice, sharp as shattered glass. You've disgraced this family. My father, cold and unyielding. You will not raise a baby under my roof. Pack your things. You're out, I begged. I cried until my chest ached. But their faces stayed carved from stone. By nightfall, I was upstairs in my room, shoving sweaters and jeans into an old duffel bag I hadn't used since summer camp. My hands shook so badly I could hardly zip it shut. I tucked in one photograph, me and Ethan at the county fair, our faces lit by neon lights, cotton candy in my hand, his arms slung around my shoulders. For a moment I stared at it, fighting the urge to rip it in half. Instead I slid it into the side pocket, a reminder, I thought, of how much love can cost when it breaks. Downstairs, the house was quiet. My mother sat at the kitchen table with her head in her hands. My father had disappeared into the garage, the slam of the door still echoing in my mind. I lingered in the doorway. My voice was almost too soft to hear. I'm leaving. My mother finally looked up, her eyes rimmed with red. Claire, please, think about this. I did. My grip tightened on the bag. And you made it clear. I'm not welcome here. Outside, the January air cut like knives against my skin. Snow crunched beneath my sneakers, as tears blurred the world around me. No plan, no money, no Ethan, no home. But in the middle of all that emptiness, one name surfaced in my mind, Grandma Margaret. I hadn't seen her since Christmas, but I could still hear her voice. If you ever need me, sweetheart, you call. I don't care what time it is. With numb fingers, I scrolled through my phone and pressed her number. It rang once, twice. Then her warm voice. Hello? Grandma. My voice cracked. It's me. I need to come stay with you. Can I come now? There was only a short pause. Then with no hesitation. Of course you can, darling. Get here safe. I'll put the kettle on. And that was it. Not judgment. Not questions. Just love. So I wiped my face, tightened my grip on the duffel bag, and started toward the bus stop at the end of the street. I didn't know what waited for me in Maple Falls, but I knew who would be there. And for now, that was enough. The Greyhound bus rattled into Maple Falls just past midnight. The station was nearly empty. Only the buzz of a vending machine and the flicker of a tired street lamp breaking the silence. Frost clung to the windows, and when I stepped off, the cold bit straight through my thin coat. My duffel bag felt heavier with every step. Grandma Margaret's house was only 3 blocks away. I remembered the walk from childhood, her warm hand holding mine, the two of us laughing at the row of little ceramic frogs lining her porch. Now, I walked alone, arms wrapped around my belly, chasing a memory I desperately needed to be real. Her porch light was on, glowing like a beacon. The steps creaked under my weight, frogs still in their places, one missing an eye. Before I could knock, the front door swung open. There she was. Grandma Margaret wore a faded robe patterned with tiny blue flowers, wool socks sagging around her slippers. Her silver hair was bundled into a messy knot, but her sharp gray eyes softened the second they found me. She didn't ask questions. She didn't scold. She simply opened her arms. I collapsed into her, breathing in the familiar scent of cinnamon and old books. She was smaller than I remembered, but her embrace felt like armor, steady, unshakable. Come inside, sweetheart, she murmured. Let's get you warm. The house hadn't changed. The plaid couch sagged in the middle. A chipped teacup collection lined the windowsill. A radio hummed soft jazz in the corner, the kind she always said made the house breathe. She handed me a steaming mug of chamomile tea and a plate with leftover meatloaf sandwiches. Thick slices of bread with just enough ketchup to remind me of childhood. I hadn't realized how hungry I was until I took the first bite, tears stinging my eyes as the warmth settled into me. We sat in silence until I finally broke. My voice shook. I messed up, Grandma. Mom and Dad, they said I ruined everything, that I've disgraced them. I'm pregnant and I'm terrified. I don't know what to do. Grandma Margaret didn't flinch. She took a slow sip of her tea, set the cup down carefully, and looked at me with calm resolve. A child isn't a disgrace, Claire. It's a beginning. sometimes a hard one, but still, a beginning. Her words wrapped around me like a blanket. For the first time in weeks, I felt the faintest flicker of hope. Maybe I wasn't broken. Maybe I was just starting over. The days that followed unfolded quietly, wrapped in small routines and gentle healing. Grandma didn't push. She didn't demand explanations. She gave me space to sleep, to cry, to eat without shame. Every morning we shared tea. She liked hers strong with honey and 2 crackers. I liked mine lighter, but never told her. It felt like a ritual I didn't want to disturb. By mid-February, her garden, a patch of frozen soil behind the house, began to show tiny signs of life. Winter roses, she called them. Stubborn flowers that bloomed when everything else surrendered to the cold. She'd kneel in the frost, brushing snow from their leaves, chuckling. Remind you of anyone? Sometimes I helped her trim dead branches. Sometimes I sketched by the window while the radio played, filling page after page not with Ethan's name, but with the small things that kept me breathing. At night, I wrote in a notebook I'd found tucked in her drawer, scribbles about fear, about tiny victories, about the baby growing inside me. You don't have to be perfect, Grandma would say whenever she caught me staring too long out the window. You just have to keep going. So I did. By spring, I found a part-time job at Mrs. Dawson's bakery downtown. She was a kind woman, round-cheeked and always smelling of sugar and cinnamon. She didn't ask about my past or the curve of my belly. She just handed me an apron, taught me how to frost cupcakes, and made sure I ate lunch. It wasn't easy. Nights still came with tears. Mornings still came with fear. But I was safe. I was growing. For the first time since Ethan's goodbye, I began to believe I could do this. And then, one heavy August morning, the world shifted again. I was rinsing dishes at the sink when a sharp pain sliced through my back and gripped low in my stomach. My hands froze in the water. A second later, warmth spread across my legs. "Grandma!" I cried, my voice shaking. Within moments, she was at my side, car keys already in hand. "Let's go, darling," she said firmly, not even stopping for shoes. "We've got a little one waiting to meet us." The drive to Springfield Mercy Hospital blurred into a haze of contractions and desperate breaths. I clutched her hand the whole way, pressing my forehead against the cool glass of the window. She didn't say much, just whispered little comforts, words that felt like anchors. In the delivery room, time lost its shape. Pain came in crashing waves, each one pulling me under. I screamed until my throat burned raw. Nurses moved swiftly, but the only thing I could hold on to was Grandma's steady hand on my shoulder and her voice in my ear. "You're doing fine, Claire. Just breathe." Almost there. And then he came. A tiny, crying miracle, covered in warmth and life and everything I never knew I needed. He had a shock of dark hair, scrunched eyes, and fists clenched tight like he was ready to fight for his place in the world. When they laid him on my chest, everything else went silent. My tears spilled freely this time, as I whispered the name I had written over and over in my notebook. Noah. It meant rest, comfort. But to me, it meant something even deeper. It meant home. I looked up at Grandma Margaret. For the first time in months, she was crying too, tears of joy. And in that fragile, glowing moment, I knew I wasn't just a broken girl anymore. I was a mother. 2 decades passed, the way seasons slip quietly. Then suddenly, Maple Falls became more than just a refuge. It became home. What began as a few shifts at Mrs. Dawson's bakery slowly grew into a dream of my own. Flour-dusted mornings turned into recipes scribbled in notebooks, late nights into whispered plans. By the time Noah was in middle school, I'd opened my own little shop on Main Street. I called it Claire's Hearth, not after myself, but after the warmth I wanted people to feel the moment they stepped through the door, a place where tired hearts could find sweetness and weary souls could rest. Noah grew up with sugar on his cheeks and the scent of cinnamon clinging to his clothes. He learned how to stack trays before he learned long division. By high school, he was sketching buildings on napkins, his sharp eyes already chasing the lines of a future in architecture. When his scholarship letter came in the mail, I cried harder than I had the day he was born. Tears of pride, not fear. Still, every Sunday, he came home for dinner. Just the two of us at the table, laughter spilling over chipped plates, stories shared until the candles burned low. Life felt steady, safe, whole. Then, one rainy October afternoon, there was a knock at the door. When I opened it, my breath caught. Standing on the porch, soaked through and trembling, were my parents. Helen and Robert looked older, smaller somehow. My mother's hands shook around a faded umbrella. My father's voice cracked when he asked, "Is this a bad time?" Behind me, Noah appeared. Tall, strong, his eyes carrying both his own kindness and echoes of the boy who once walked away from me. I didn't answer my parents. Not right away. Instead, I turned to Noah. "These are your grandparents," I said softly. "They've come a long way, and maybe, just maybe, they have something to say." For once, I let the silence stretch. Not angry silence, not wounded, just space. Space for them to decide if they were ready to fill it. Some wounds never fully close. Some scars remain tender no matter how many years pass. But that day I realized something. I hadn't rebuilt my life to prove them wrong. I hadn't survived to make anyone else pay. I'd done it so I could live fully, with honesty, with grace, without shame. That evening, as rain tapped against the windows, my parents sat at my table sipping tea from the same chipped cups Grandma Margaret once treasured. I watched their hands tremble as they lifted the cups, and I felt a strange, unexpected calm. I wasn't angry anymore. Not because they deserved forgiveness, but because I deserved peace. Grandma Margaret never got to see this moment. She passed 5 years earlier, before Noah became the man she always believed he could be. She never saw the bakery expand, or the porch swing we rebuilt in her honor, but her presence was everywhere, in the stubborn roses blooming in winter, in the chipped teacups, in the steady rhythm of tea poured every morning. She gave me something more permanent than shelter. She gave me a foundation. She showed me that even discarded seeds can grow roots in the coldest soil. Now, when women step into my bakery with tired eyes or trembling hands, I meet them with the same smile Grandma once gave me. I set a warm pastry in front of them and say the same words that carried me through the darkest nights. "You're safe here." Because sometimes revenge isn't loud. It isn't a battle or a war cry. Sometimes it's gentler, rising quietly, living fully, and blooming where no one thought you could. You're not alone. If this story spoke to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe for more stories of resilience, healing, and hope.